the one that kind of had a pretty big impact on me. One night I just chose to sleep by the fire, and people are scared of, wild animals, bears, grizzlies. There's all those animals up there, and I hear like something was actually behind me. Yeah, I'm a IT engineer, automation engineer, reliability engineer as far as career-wise. So I've been in IT for the last 20 years, doing a lot of different things. But as far as Bigfoot goes, I've always enjoyed listening to Bigfoot stories. I wasn't super into the normal like Patterson Gimlin stuff as a kid, but I always listened to Coast to Coast AM. Um, I still have an active membership with them, so I kind of started with them. Anytime they had a Bigfoot stuff on, I'd always love to hear about it, and kind of always was my favorite subject as far as if you want to call it paranormal or cryptids. Um, and then I started getting into documentaries, and I found a documentary discovering Bigfoot, I think about 2019, and really got me engaged. And that kind of just got me started on my journey. I reached out and started going out to Canada and doing research. And I've been doing that for the last 4 to 5 years.
So what have you discovered in Canada? I understand there's a lot of activity up there, a lot of people researching in that region. So what have you discovered up there?
Um, we kind of go to the same location. I haven't, Canada's so wide and big, but the research area we go to is a fairly large area. It's between kind of Radium and Banff up there in British Columbia. I've had a lot of interactions up there. I've seen a lot of trace evidence. There's a bunch of stories I can go into, but yeah, as far as discovering for myself, like I've had a lot of what I would, you have to be there to be there, but I would call interactions with not actually seeing them face to face, but a lot of footprints, tree breaks, whistles, howls, rock knocks. I had what I believe to be a couple of close interactions, um, a handful of times. But yeah, it's been eye-opening because you can't really get the full effect until you go out there and start doing some boots on the ground.
How did those close encounters play out? What were you hearing them? Did they throw rocks at you? I mean, what made you think that they were close by? Hi, I'm Linda Eastburn of Linda Eastburn YouTube channel, and I have a new book out called Threshold to Encounters. It's about 40 years of research and experience with all of these wild cryptids that many of you I know have encountered yourself. You can find it on Amazon.com.
Um, so the one that kind of had a pretty big impact on me was so I usually go out there for about 6 to 7 days at a time, and I was wanting to sleep out kind of in the outside by myself and be away from the other guys I was with, just to see if I could get some solo interactions, kind of feeling that I needed to do that. And it was raining off and on, so I kind of wanted to get a little bit further from our kind of campsite, kind of base camp area, but I also didn't want to wake up sopping wet. So I one night I just chose to sleep by the fire, and um, most, I'd say about 95% of the time, people that go out there, they usually sleep in the RV just because it's safer, and people are scared of, wild animals, bears, grizzlies. There's all those animals up there in British Columbia, so just a little bit more safer in a metal metal enclosure. But so I ended up sleeping by the fire one night, and there was another guy with me. His name was Dan, and he ended up sitting there kind of, he liked to whittle, and he was whittling by the fire. He ended up falling asleep, and I was in and out of sleep that night, a little bit anxious, and he ended up getting up about 4 a.m. telling me good night. And he didn't tell me why he got up until later, but he did end up telling me that he got up because he was hearing some noise behind him and it was freaking him out, right? So that's nice of him not to tell me that, but um so around 5 a.m. and this was the middle of it was kind of like June-ish, July-ish time frame. So the sun there is really only um down for like 5 hours at a time. Kind of goes down around 11:30 in that time and comes back up around 5. So I was opening my eyes a bit and I could see like a blue kind of haze and I was like, okay, well, nothing happened. I can kind of rest for at least 3 more hours, just get some good sleep here on the ground. And as I was thinking that in my head and as I kind of shifted my body and put my hands, I was facing on my side towards the fire and I shifted to my back. I was kind of at an angle. I put my hands on my chest and I was literally thinking that. And when I did it, I hear like two, like something was actually behind me and it jumped backwards. I heard the 2 feet land probably, 2, 3 feet from me. It was soft, but you could hear it. So that kind of made my heart beat really fast because I knew something was around me. You're on the ground, you don't really know what to do. Um, So that was kind of my first kind of really, really close experience because I'd never had something that close, but I kind of gave myself about a minute for my heart rate to go down. I had kind of my right eye open a little bit. I couldn't fully turn to my left, and it was at this point I was on my left, because I was kind of on a slope in this kind of like fire area. Um, and yeah, it's like, well, if I'm hearing things, I should let me just test it. And I gave it a little time, and then I heard it slow footsteps around me, like kind of walking around me, and my heart rate would go back up, and it was just kind of every now and then it would walk around me, and I was trying to gather the courage, even though I was out there for do research, to kind of cock my head more to the left so I could open my eyes and just look and see what this was, and I just it took me a while to get the composure to do that, right? It took me about 3, 4 minutes. Because I was a little bit tired and a little restless at the same time. I didn't really know what kind of reaction I would get, like turning my full body and looking in one direction and have something so close to me. So I just gave it, 3, 4 minutes. I couldn't really tell you the time frame, and then I decided I was going to take a turn towards the fire and just not to startle whatever was by me and then take a look over my shoulder. And as I did that, it wasn't there, right? I couldn't see anything. I didn't hear it leave. So it was kind of a close encounter without the visual, but I could clearly feel and hear really soft footsteps walking by me and and I know I startled it when I turned from the campfire because it was right, I guess behind me, just kind of checking me out, and then it didn't know I was going to turn abruptly, and it jumped backwards, not knowing what was going to happen, right? So, yeah, that was probably one of the more intense situations I was in.
I've heard of situations where they're really close by, but they have this unbelievable ability not to move at all, and you can't see them, you can't hear them. Do you think this one was still around you, or do you think it managed to get away without you hearing it?
I'm, I don't know if it was still around or not. I did get up and kind of check the ground, and I did kind of a circle around base camp and kind of walked around because, I was awake at that point and it was still only like 5:30 in the morning. But I mean, if it was around, I didn't see it. Um, but anything's possible. Like not a lot of people sleep outside there, so I think I can't really prove this. To me, the energy I got was more of a female presence. And that's just a feeling, right? I can't really say that's a factual thing, but I just felt like maybe they came in to check me out because they don't see a lot of people actually out there in the cold or what, in the wilderness actually sleeping out of the RV.
They do seem to be very curious.
Yeah.
So did you smell anything or did you find any footprints around there after the fact?
So the ground there is not really great for footprints. It's kind of just kind of hard, hard ground and not great. So I didn't find any trace evidence just from that experience. We found lots of footprints in the forests around there that are unrelated. But yeah, I've found myself probably I don't know, probably five or six different sets of tracks before since I've been going out. And they're pretty substantial tracks. So like I know there's definitely something out there in the woods. I haven't seen it, but I believe it to be Bigfoot.
Yeah, and did you measure the size? Were you able to get any cast from those footprints?
Um, the ground there is like some of the footprints are kind of in this mossiness, so it's really not great for casting. I'm not super interested in getting casting, to be honest. Like I cut pictures and stuff, and there's a lot of cool things you can do with your phone and kind of this LiDAR software now if you really wanted to. But it's kind of more out there for the most part for the experience to collect evidence because I know there's tons and tons of cast out there. But yeah, the like measuring um we found some more juvenile kind of prints, probably from 13, 14 inches. And then the biggest one that we found and measured was about 19 inches long and probably about 5, 6 inches wide. We like to call that one, I guess the alpha or the dad.
So what made you think the one that was so close was female? What were the indicators that made you
Um,
expect that?
just, just kind of the softness of the steps. And I don't know, I just kind of got that sense from it. I don't know how to explain it. I just kind of felt that energy from this being, but it was more of the a female, and and we do know that there is a female in that group. So and that she's been seen before. I think she's I don't know the age of her, but she has been seen out there multiple times. So I don't know. I can't explain it right. I can't, like I said, I can't prove it. I just kind of felt that energy uh um in my thought, right? It was to me it kind of felt feminine.
I've heard before some of the researchers that go out, they get a sense or a feeling when they're present or when they're in the area even. And if they don't get that feeling, they usually will not find any evidence or have any kind of encounter for sure, or even get wood knocks and the sometimes the smells and all the things, the indicators of Bigfoot being present. Do you ever get a sense when you go out to be at a certain place, or if they are somewhat close by or anything like that?
Um, I sometimes the last time I went out, I was kind of trying to put some of that intent out there, and we got some activity. Um, Kind of a believer in trying to put thought and intent and kind of really kind of I don't know what you want to call it, right? I'm not really great at meditation, but kind of putting the intent and mm, I'm not sure what the word would be, but just the energy out there to have some interaction and ask kind of in your own mind to, ask for things. So I did that a lot when I was out there. And the last time and the time before, it seems to when you kind of have that positive energy and intent and kind of um want that interaction that it happens more. At least for me. So yeah, there was a handful of other things that happened, and this was just probably about a month ago when I was out there. So the first interaction we really had was kind of sitting out in the forest, and it was probably about 5:30 in the day. We kind of head back soon, and we heard something kind of run through the forest and kind of charge and stop, and it was a really weird sound. It didn't. it didn't really sound like a moose or an elk to me. It sounded different. So, and at the time I was kind of, you know, asking for that kind of interaction. So it was kind of weird. And then, we kind of looked around, looked for evidence, but the forest is so vast, it's kind of hard to find some of it. So, um, that night when we went back to campsite and the next day we had some pretty good interaction as far as we were sitting by the fire and I've heard people say this before. I've never actually heard it in person. Actually, I haven't heard anyone um, actually give the sound really. It's more of a description. But sitting by the campfire, we on our left side, kind of, I guess you would call it west of the campfire, we heard that classic description of like a metallic kind of door slam, right? And that kind of gave us pause because Um, when I heard it, I just thought of like a barn door almost like just slamming, right? And most of the knocks that we've heard out there haven't really been metallic in nature. They're very loud, but this one was super different. So it was kind of like, oh man, I guess that's what everyone's hearing, this weird door, metallic car. They call it like a car door opening or shutting. Like I'd call it more of a barn door, but yeah, we heard that and that was really interesting. And I'm trying to clear the audio out. I have a whole camera system out there at base camp now, so it was around the fire, so I'm trying to clean the audio up and see if I can grab that sound because no one that I know of actually has that recorded that I know of. So I'm trying to see if I can get the fire pops and stuff out of it and kind of clean it up so I can post it. But yeah, that was really cool. And then about 20 minutes after that, we had it sounded like almost like a double tree break. So in this area, I know they don't do it in every area because I talked to a lot of researchers, but in this area, they like to do tree breaks, and there's a lot of evidence for it. And about 20 minutes later, I just hear these huge like bang bang, and like it sounded like kind of like almost like a gunshot, but you could tell it was like a cracking of a tree, and it was like one right after the other, right? So I also got that on kind of audio video, which is really cool because unless you're out there and you hear it, it's hard to describe. So I think it was about 20,000 in amplitude on my audio and video when I'm going through my processing software. So it was pretty loud sound. So that was really cool. And then the last thing that happened was, and I did also get this on the reaction and kind of the audio was I think it was about 2:25 in the afternoon and we're kind of just sitting there talking. We're about to go do something and we hear this really ominous howl. Um, we know the direction it was coming from, but couldn't tell you how far it was. And I kind of parsed that out and posted that to a video, but it's this weird howl and it didn't sound, like a wolf or a coyote or anything or a dog. It was like just really loud and not something I've heard out there before. And then about it was 2:25 and then 2:27. 2 minutes later, um, all around our base camp, we started hearing these. Best I could describe it is kind of a quiet whoop. So we kind of like northeast, we just heard a whoop, and then it's kind of southeast, you hear it again, like whoop, and then behind us we hear whoop, and then on my left, so I couldn't actually hear them all. I got it recorded on audio, and there's I want to say six different whoops there. And it was all in a circle around us, right? So it was super interesting. It's kind of like the how kind of was a communication, and then all these whoops started happening around us. So it was really cool to happen, and we kind of went out into the woods and kind of spread out and just kind of sat and see if we could get some interaction after that. And the researcher I was with was, recording, and he thought he had seen something in front of him, and he was trying to actively talk to, this Bigfoot. And he got up and started recording. He did get, I would call like a really blurry image, because it was kind of behind a tree stick. And I know they're going to do some more analysis and testing on it just to make sure it wasn't something foreign object. But you know, he's pretty sure he saw what he saw. So I can't give doubt. I didn't see it, but that was the last time we were there. That was all the interactions we had as far as the major ones, other than we found a few really fresh tree breaks, and you can kind of tell by the tree. But we had walked certain paths there while we were there, and there was this one tree break that was right in the middle of this path on this cut line, and it was literally just a day old. And it was, and we've been trying to measure um, things about the tree breaks and kind of do more analysis on it. And maybe they're all like certain directions, north, south, northeast, southwest. And so this one was a lot of them like are really dead on certain directions like northeast, west. So this one was pretty dead on west. But yeah, I would say yeah, that's about most of the activity we had in the last month. I do capture a lot of I set up a whole system out there and an app and cameras, so I've been capturing a lot of data and activity on the cameras. So yeah, I'll be quiet. You can ask questions.
Well, I have several because you have a lot of information here. I want to go back to the night that or the day that you heard all of the whoops in the circle around you. How did that make you feel? Did you feel like they were closing in on you, or did you feel like they were really distant from you?
No, I felt like they were. It sounded extremely close. I'd say 50 yards in a circle around us, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of an opening around camp. I'd say like a 30-yard circle of kind of just not a lot of trees, and it's kind of where the base camp is, but all around it, it's nothing but trees. And we're kind of in the middle of this, we're kind of in the low end of the high ground around it. So there's a lot of high ground around there. Um, and it's kind of purposeful, trying to give, you know, things advantages over you, trying to get things to come in and interact with you. If they feel like they don't have an advantage, we don't really feel like that would be advantageous for us. So, but yeah, it was really cool. I've never heard so many at once. I've heard other whoops out there, like, and I've heard other, um, what I th like at nighttime mainly, but this was during the day. So it was pretty cool to have that interaction. So I don't really know how it made me feel other than happy, right?
So you spread out. Did you have communication between all of you, or were you within sight of one another, or did you just?
Yeah, we're probably about 60 feet from each other. And we kind of know the area for the most part. So we kind of went just kind of there's a tree line around there that goes really far into old growth forest, and then that old growth forest kind of leads you to the Kootenai River. So we kind of have our bearings a bit, but we just kind of spread out and kind of picked a spot and sat down and relaxed and kind of focused on intent for like 15 minutes or so. Trying to, you know, just let them know we're there and would like some interaction if possible. So yeah, it was, we kind of stop and do that every now and then. And we also go on these night walks that are in the pitch black and kind of try not to use a lot of light, and just kind of go on these trails that are kind of old logging trails and go down them.
So did anything else happen? Did you continue hearing those whoops, or did they stop?
We didn't hear them again. It's almost just like, I don't know if it was like, the leader howled just, and then they were all talking to each other in a sense. I don't know. But yeah, I didn't hear anything after that. So it was interesting.
Going back to the car door metallic kind of sound, I've heard of that before, a kind of a metallic kind of buzz or even a metallic, kind of knock. which sounds very different than a wood knock or something that of a different source. Where I know you said you put these up. Where can people find these videos or sounds when you get them up?
So I put an app together and I'm posting stuff to there. I'm also posting some stuff to just a few of the social media accounts I made for the app. So there's it's just called Discovering Bigfoot. So you could find it on like Facebook or Instagram. I'm not really I'm not really big into the other stuff yet. So I'm just trying to post where I can, and then within the app itself, like I said, I made a whole app around this and put a wrapper around my video feeds. And there's a lot of tech stuff I can talk through on that, but like I said, I'm a engineer, so I put like this own its own mini I don't know, microcosm of YouTube within the app where I'm just posting videos and people can comment on it and do stuff kind of like a YouTube thing, but not as articulate as YouTube. But yeah, they're out there, and when I get like some good stuff, I'm trying to just throw it out there to, like I said, my social media stuff, and then I'll post it to Reddit sometimes just to get other people's opinions. Um,
So
and
they can
I did
find you.
find,
Yeah,
yeah, just look for Discovering Bigfoot
yeah.
on some of those things, and you'll find me out there.
So
Um,
I presume you've heard the Sierra sounds. Have you listened to those?
yeah, I've heard them, the Ron Moorhead sounds.
Yeah. What do you think of those?
I think they're pretty convincing. Like, I know I've heard the whole story and the linguist and the whole scenario. Um, to me, they sound authentic. I know some people think some of the chatter sounds very weird, but I don't have any reason to doubt it. I think it sounds really intriguing. I haven't heard like the samurai chatter and that level of communication where I'm currently doing research at. So I don't know. You never know. Like, these things could be just in different groups, and they could do different things in all different areas. And like I don't have any reason to doubt Ron Moorhead and his authenticity there.
Right. There's a lot of things happened to him up there at the Sierra camp that was kind of unusual. Have you ever had any kind of unusual lights or orbs or rods of light or anything happen to you when you've been out in the woods looking for these things?
So not to me. I know we have a lot of researchers that go out there, and I know they saw like a light that shot up in the air once, and I couldn't really give you too much information about it other than it was like a green light that shot up in the air, and it was kind of just very weird, almost like like the Batman signal just flying up in the air, and it was for probably 30 seconds to a minute, which is interesting because there shouldn't be any light out there like that, but I have recently, on my camera system, I've caught some strange lights that happen and they'll go and kind of glow and flicker and come in and out. I would, I would call them more like orb-like orbs. Um, and I know there's a lot of stuff with cameras where you get some weird reflections and stuff, but I've kind of tested some of those things out, and I think the ones in the far, far distance, those could possibly be airplanes. Like I've kind of ruled those out, but some of the stuff kind of goes and shows up in the trees and it'll move and go actually behind branches and stuff. So I'm trying to collect all that data as well because it's sporadic and it doesn't happen all the time. But I just found some of that. Um, but I don't know other researchers that have gone out there. I don't know of a lot of them saying they've seen a lot of lighter orbs in the area. Um, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. I just don't know.
What do you think Bigfoot is?
I just think there are people that are kind of like a forgotten people and they want to be on their own, right? They're hominoid and we've kind of, evolved a different route than them. So they're just a people that have different abilities than we do and have kind of gone a different method from technology and, you know, just more of a free, they're probably the more indigenous people of the earth because we can't live without, you know, clothing and a lot of other things and fire, and they're just out there living their life without any of it that I know of. So that's my thought.
Sure. The cameras that you said have been out there, you've caught some things on that. Anything interesting that you can tell us about?
Um, yeah, I've caught an I I can't tell if it's a rock or an acorn because it goes too fast. So when I first got the cameras out there in July-ish, um, this was I think July 11th. I caught just going through the video feeds and some of the software I put together. I I caught like, this acorn flying towards the camera and hitting the tree behind it. And this was probably a good 75 yards throw, and you can't really tell where it's coming from. So that was pretty cool. Like I don't know a lot of people have caught actual footage of a throw. So that one to me was pretty impressive. A lot of stuff and bangs on the trailer um, have been caught, and then the tree breaks, and then recently I got pretty lucky, and I can't substantiate that is Bigfoot, but I did get a tree branch that slowly moves down when there's not any wind. It gets pushed down, and I did some analysis on it, and it's probably about 60 yards away, and it gets slowly gets pushed down, and this is about 11:30 at night, and then a minute later it goes up, and then you see these eye shine right below the branch, right? You see a clear eye shine underneath it, and kind of this movement. It's really hard to like because it's kind of far away, so it's hard to clean it up. I cleaned it up as much as I could, and I can't 100% say it's a Sasquatch, but it's kind of interesting. I don't know a lot of animals that would have that kind of behavior at 11:30 at night. I do know there's squirrels around the area, but I have never seen any activity with squirrels there in the 35 days I was there at nighttime. And didn't really make a lot of sense to me. So that was really cool. I'm gonna post that one shortly. I just found that a couple of days ago. And like I said, I've seen some pretty cool kind of orb-like things on there. A lot of a lot of it is audio, to be fair. I haven't got like I would love for like a clear picture of a Bigfoot, to kind of walk out. But I do give them some, you know, it's not like a true like enclosed 360 camera system. I want them to have the ability to move if they really want to avoid them, just to not inhibit anything. So there's only two cameras and there are two different angles, but I can point them in any kind of pan, tilt, zoom direction. But um, so I mean, they could get behind there. They could go in different spots. I did capture a lot of audio and like what I would call like power knocks. Just a lot of random things. And it's only been up a few months, so I'm trying to collect as much evidence as I can. And the a lot of the time when the like expeditioners or people go out there and go to that area, there'll be more activity, especially like at nighttime and when they leave. Like I'll see a lot of like just banging on the trailers and weird sounds and knocks and stuff like that. So I it's a work in progress, right? Nobody's captured, so they say, like great footage in 50 years. So um you never know what's going to happen. So that's kind of my thought is to get more people looking at it and to build a network of a system out there, and not just in this area, but in across the US, and kind of start with 4 or 5 different locations and have systems up and um, try to collect as much video and audio as we can and kind of go from there.
I know when we did the film Byways of Bigfoot, we were along a river, but there were bluffs back there, and we found fresh footprints just below a really unusual tree break. And there was no wind, no other trees had any kind of damage to them, but this one was, it wasn't a huge tree, but it was twisted and then pulled down, about halfway up the tree. Have you found any distinguishing marks or differences in the way that the trees are broken to know that perhaps that was a Bigfoot break?
Um, they're all kind of not stress breaks. They're kind of pressure breaks. So you have to have pressure, a tight pressure in the middle or wherever they break it, and then a leverage kind of pressure at the top. The most of them are really clean breaks, I would say. We do have some really I don't know what you want to call it, but convincing um kind of tree breaks to where we kind of know the area. So like there'll be a tree that's actually curved all the way down, and then there's a tree break over it where there's an angle towards the trail, and it's like a very smooth, unsplintered break on top of that curve, right? So it's stuff like that that's like I don't know another word, but like damning, like kind of damning evidence because that would never happen, like as far as in nature. And it's very convincing because we'll under the brakes and stuff, we'll most of the time we'll find some kind of trackway, or we'll find some kind of trace evidence around that would be, kind of like, yeah, this was definitely a Sasquatch break. So we try to do as much analysis as possible and like look for like you can kind of tell snow load and stuff, but yeah, there's a lot of cool breaks out there, and there's some really big, giant ones that make no sense. And like you said, there's less of like there's like Douglas fir and pine trees out there, so they're less like malleable than some of the trees in other states where you can kind of twist them and stuff. But um, I would say there was I don't know, like just in that area, what I've seen, probably 500 different tree breaks. Um, and that's just a conservative number. And the weird thing is when you go to other areas and you go to different locations and you don't see them, right? And it's just in there's certain areas and you start seeing all these tree breaks and you don't really see that on the side of the roads or anything, and it doesn't make any sense. Like it's not natural.
Yeah. How about structures? Do you see anything that appears to be like a structure that's been built out in the woods?
I mean, there's been like kind of tree formations. I wouldn't really call them structures though. I'd call it like somebody's almost being artsy or having fun, or maybe it's a younger individual that's learning the ropes and doing something creative. I'm not sure, but I haven't seen a lot of like shelter structures out there. No, I haven't seen much of any of that.
How about Bigfoot traveling waterways? Do you think that is one of their means of traveling or moving through an area?
Um, I don't know. Why do you think they would travel waterways?
Well, it's just what I've heard that a lot of people find them along rivers and streams and such.
Oh, okay. I mean, I would say just to hunt, maybe to go down there or to get a drink, but I don't know that they would really need to travel waterways. I don't. It's almost like they have an Idemic mind where they step and where they go. Like they have a deeper sense of the surroundings around them. It's hard to explain, but they're really agile in the woods and quiet. So I don't know that they really need to walk in waterways other than just to maybe hunt deer or something along the sides, or when you're thirsty, you got to drink.
Yeah, and sometimes people have caught them with yeah, fishing, grabbing fish and eating them also,
Oh, right, right, yeah.
the food
Um,
source.
yeah, I'm sure they would get salmon and stuff if it was available and fish and that would make a lot of sense. There's a so much abundance where we go. Like it would be really easy for them to, live a a good life with the amount of and berries and deer and elk and uh there's fish in the Kootenai, but a lot of the waterways where we're at is kind of straight off of glaciers, so there's not a lot of fish or salmon in those rivers or those tributaries, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, it's there's abundance of meat that they could get from where we're at, so I don't think they'd have a problem surviving at all.
What about caves? A lot of people think they may kind of move through cave systems or stay in caves.
Yeah, I mean, to me that's a solid, like definitely in the dead of winter. To me, I would think they would most likely be in a cave. I haven't seen a lot of cave systems up there. I know there's lots of them since there's so many glacier runoffs, so there has to be caves all over. But I would say it would be probably more likely for them to be in the caves in the winter for sure, just because it gets so cold up there, like, -20, -30. So they would probably need a place to hunker down in, and that would be the most natural place to go. I've heard of stories of from another researcher of them finding kind of um, along the cave systems like a almost like packed salmon where they had buried a bunch of salmon in the snow and packed it for winter. Like they found just salmon all over the place. So that would make sense, if they were getting fish and taking it up and packing it in the snow and then eating it, right? Because I'm sure winters in at least some of the northern states are pretty brutal.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, they're obviously survivors, and they probably know every aspect of nature that they can utilize for their own means of surviving. What do you
Yep,
think?
for sure.
Do you do any gifting? Have you tried anything like that up there?
So we gift like red delicious apples for the most part. Every now and then we'll maybe throw something up. We try to do more into like just natural food other than like junk food and stuff. But so it's hit and miss though. Like the time before I was out there in May putting up some of the equipment, like they had taken a bunch of apples. And they're just, gone. And you can kind of tell when it's like we'll put like anywhere from like 6 to like 15 apples up at a time. And we'll put them on like these tree spikes in this gifting area it's kind of up on a hill, kind of high ground. And you can tell if like a bird or squirrel or something would find it and will peck at it. Like you can tell those things. Like we'll take those off and replace them. But for the most part, when they do take the apples, they're just gone. Like there's no apple, on the ground. There's no evidence of anything was eaten, sitting there eating it. It's just they're just taken. But it's very sporadic. Like it's not like um I don't really know what the mindset of this, I guess, Bigfoot troop is up there. Like if it's certain individuals that like to take them or if it's taboo for other ones to do it. I'm not sure, but it's like if you go out there 4 weeks of the month, it might be, you know, 10 10 of those days they'll take apples and the other time they'll just leave them alone, right? So I haven't really wrapped my head around it. But we do other stuff and try to move rocks and try to make patterns and stack things. And some other people that will go out there will try to do different types of like Native American gifting and special looking um, rocks and stuff like that. haven't had a lot of success as that goes. I've been trying a bunch of weird things as far as um just listening to other people and kind of what makes sense. I try to do like the play thing and the last few times I brought like a blue tennis ball and I'll like sometimes I'll take it with me and throw it up in the air and play with it and then I'll leave it out around the gifting area just to see if maybe they would take it. But I haven't had any success with it. I've heard they like the color blue, but I can't really substantiate that. Stuff like that. I put like a puzzle out that my kid, it's like a hand puzzle where you have to shape this. It has different shapes you can make out of it, and it looks like the woods. It's kind of made out of this wood-like material, and you can make it into a cube or other these other shapes. And I kind of put that out there on a stump, and but I haven't had a lot of success with things like that. They have taken the apples, but I haven't had a lot of other success.
What about mind speak? You know, some people think that they have the ability to just send a clear message, just mind to mind. Have you or anyone you know had any kind of an experience like that?
Um, you know, I'd love to get to that level. Um, I haven't had any mind speak. I know a few people that I go out with do like kind of have a sense of like that I don't know, they kind of say they kind of feel their emotions a bit, like happiness sometimes. I can't really substantiate that, but I am open to it because I know there's a science around, you know, telekinesis and all those things and remote viewing. And I do think that there's validity to it. You know, maybe if they have that ability, it's something we lost in our growth and they have just enhanced, right? So I haven't experienced it. I can't put it down as not being something that's real. So I'm really open to it. I'd love for something like that to happen to me, but other than other people's stories, you know, it's I haven't had it.
A lot of the Native Americans talk about Bigfoot in a way that they say they're you know they live in two worlds, like they're physical but they're non-physical and they can come and go kind of from the heavens or whatever. What do you think about that philosophy?
Um, I don't know. Like I haven't seen the evidence for that just looking at it from a scientific point of view. Um, but I'm kind of someone that's open to a lot of things, so I can't dismiss things. So and until I'm proven otherwise. So if someone has an experience that way and it sounds valid, like I can't say it didn't happen, or I can't say Native American stories aren't have some sense of truth in it. So you know, I'd love for there to be this being that has all these abilities and is kind of a wise teacher, but I don't know, it could just be something that they observed and didn't understand at the time, or you never know. We're still trying to figure out how the world works on our own here, so anything's possible.
For sure. Well, we're coming near the end of our interview, Logan, but is there anything else that we haven't covered? What else would you like to share with us?
Um, as far as covered, I mean, I've had other experiences out there. You know, some I would say they're more communicative than like visuals, right? But as far as sharing, you know, I think from my standpoint, um, these beings are real. I don't know flesh and blood. I don't know paranormal. I don't know all the abilities they have, but I think they're definitely out there. Um, so kind of my goal is just to help give that to people and prove it, right? It's just really interesting to me that there's this, you know, group of beings out there, you know, living in a different way than we are, and you know, we're kind of blind to it. So, I'd say if anyone's really into the research, just to get out there and join some groups and kind of dive in further if you really want to be a part of it. That's kind of my what I did is I was a armchair quarterback for a long time, and I was like, you only live once. I need to get out there and see what people are seeing and do what people are doing and experience things for myself. So that would be my only recommendation to people if you're really into the subject to get out there and kind of collaborate with people, get boots on the ground and get out in nature. Just I mean, you can't beat getting out in nature. It really kind of cleanses your soul in my opinion. So other than that, I'm going to keep doing my research. I'm going to keep progressing. I'm working with some other field researchers and trying to collaborate. Trying to get up new systems. Trying to work with Doug Highcheck a bit. Trying to branch out and grow. So yeah, that would be it. If people want to. Right now, my system, I'm trying to ch swap some of the power out till the feed is down, so it's in and out. The generator, I'm having to send it back. So it's a whole debacle there. But if people want to download the app, they can, and they can check it out. I think it'll be back up this week, and then get going. And like I said, we're gonna have more spots and locations, and some of these locations won't have power problems. So without getting into the technical stuff, yeah, it's fun and it's really set up for people that can't get out in the woods and want to contribute, and you can report sightings and sounds and have a whole back end architecture of trying to bring science and Bigfoot and meld them together here.
Sounds like a big project and something definitely worthwhile. So they can find you on Discovering Bigfoot on Facebook. That's a group that they can see all the fine work that you're doing, right?
Yeah, and if you discovering Bigfoot live stream, that might be another keyword you can put in there.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and end our interview today, let you get off to work, but I'll let you know when this comes out.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Okay.